Hi, and thanks so much for joining me today. We are talking about my current concealer routine. And I thought I'd talk about this because it's changed a little bit since I think I've done like a get ready with me or talked about concealers before. In this case, I've changed up a few products, and also the time it takes is much shorter, which I wanted to share with you because I know some of you have come over specifically because you have some kind of discoloration on your skin, and I thought that this might help because it can be very frustrating in terms of the time it takes to cover up those areas, and mine happened to be right in the center of my face, so that's where the most texture is as well, so that's like another layer of complication on top of everything else. I'm going to take you through the process. I've been really happy with the outcome, so hopefully this will help you as well. So if you'd like to see that, please keep watching. Okay, so I've put on the Even Up sunscreen, which definite white cast, and then I also put on the bronzer, and still you can see it's very like the white cast, pink cast. I mean, there's definitely a color to it. We're going to go in with a 6.5 Renewed Hope in a Jar Skin Tint, and I've decanted it, like I've said, into this because that container is just not good, but the project is really good, so I'm willing to just use this container, and it pumps out really nicely just to avoid the mess. I'm going to work that into the skin. This actually works the best if you don't have any moisturizer. If you use this as your moisturizer, it actually looks really, really skin-like. But I can't get away with that. I need to have some extra sunscreen on. So that is why I have it underneath here. I know some people have said that this product slides around on their skin. Yeah, so if I just moisturize and I don't let it soak into my skin, then that can happen. It can get kind of patchy and stick to places and slide over other places. So if you've tried this and you're having trouble with it, it's most likely an issue with your moisturizer, or it might be your skin type too. I have dry skin in general with some oily sections in the middle. I'm just putting a little extra in those areas. Still looking a bit pink. Let's go in with a little bit of the Fluid Sheer Giorgio Armani. It has some luminosity to it, so go and add a layer of that. So this is all about getting my skin back to its original color with all the sunscreen on, which I can't really skip. On a daily basis, I can't skip it. If I'm just doing a video and not going anywhere, then I can skip it, but no, in real life I would never skip this step. So what happens in the meantime as I'm adding these layers is that those dark spots are getting more and more blurred, so it makes for concealing a little bit less time consuming, and I don't need as much. So although we were still looking a little bit like not exactly the right color, we'll get there. Sometimes I'll add in the D-BRONZI, which maybe I'll do right now. So I'm going to add a little bit here, and I'm going to add that to the Giorgio Armani because the D-BRONZI is a little bit too deep, and then the Giorgio Armani is like my skin color, but on camera it's looking much lighter, so add that in. So again, we've got a lot of blurring happening here. Still looking a little bit off, but that's okay. We're going to do the concealer and then you'll see how it all comes together. So I think this is a good case of if your makeup isn't looking amazing at first, there's always a way to bring it back or bring it to the level that you're looking for. If I can find the things that I'm looking for. So as you can see, it's kind of coming back. I mean, it takes a moment, and once I bronze on the exterior as well, that'll help. So I'm gonna go in first with the Cover FX Correct Stick in orange. Although I looked online, I don't know if it's called orange still, but it says orange on the bottom of mine, so I'll find out what it actually says. So I'm gonna add it on like this, and I've talked about color correcting before, how I, depending on the product, will mix it into the concealer, but I'm using stick concealers today, so it makes more sense just to add it first, and then I'm gonna let it sit for a second. These are the areas where I apply that spot removing, this Peter Thomas Roth targeted spot brightener. These are exactly the areas where I apply it. I'm gonna let that just set for a second. Then I'm going with my CLE DE PEAU Honey, and I've talked about this before, and I wasn't in love with it at first, but now I love it. And it's almost gone, so time for a new one. And I'm going to go under my eyes with this, and then also in these areas. But when I add the concealer, we'll add it to actually more of the perimeter of these areas, because that's where I notice I can see the spots. If you can see that defined edge, then it definitely sticks out more. So that's where I'll emphasize the concealer. I'm going to go under the eye, just like this. I just sweep it under. It is nice to warm it up on your hand and apply it with a brush sometimes, but this is my daily, and don't have tons of time to do this, but this works the best. Of course, but sometimes I get a little bit of gray looking under here, so I think I'll like this too. Always making sure to get those corners. That looks frightening. Okay, and down the nose. Then, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the eye area first, so I don't get as much of that orange mixed in there. Get this mirror. That's better. Okay. So when I work this in, I'm doing more of a patting motion like this with the brush than a swirling motion, or except on the edges here. I want to fade it in, but I am just pushing it into the place I want it, so I'm not smearing the color all over the place. Otherwise, the orange mixes too much with the concealer. So again, I'm doing more of that sweeping motion towards the edges than anywhere else. I did read this interesting idea where you take a concealer with sunscreen, like the one, the CLE DE PEAU has 25 in it, and you just apply it to the places where you would normally highlight. And what happens is when you're in the sun, those areas won't tan as much as the areas where you applied it. So it's like a natural kind of sculpting effect when you take your makeup off, because it will have been protected by the sun. It doesn't really work on me because I got so much sunscreen on already. But if you don't wear too much sunscreen like me, that might be an interesting thing to try if you want to highlight like the bridge of your nose and your cheekbone area. I'd be curious to see how well it worked. If you try it, let me know. So that right there brings back a little bit of color. Yes, I can see that it's a little bit uneven. There's some more orange, and it's not going to be perfect right away. So this is when we go in with the next step. And you can always add more of that CLE DE PEAU or whatever concealer you have. I find that the Cover FX color corrector works really well with the CLE DE PEAU because they're both stick formulas. Okay, so kind of push that all into the skin. So it's looking, I think, a lot better. Just making sure to take this and blend it into the rest of my skin with the skin tint. Now, for the next step, I'm gonna go in with the Charlotte Tilbury concealer. This is number 7 for under my eye area. And what I found with this, because if this isn't done properly, I will get a lot of creasing under the eye with this alone. So I'm going to put this in, and I'm just doing this on my cheeks because I noticed I've got a lot of orange there still. And I do pat it in. I know some people sweep it, but I pat it in. It just works better for me. And it helps me get the other concealer into the skin. I do this because I was using a beauty blender before with some concealer on the beauty blender, and I thought, well, this is kind of like the same idea. It's getting that product and pushing it into the skin. So if this already does it, then I don't need a beauty blender, though I still love a beauty blender. But for quick concealing, this is a really good one. Then I'm going to go around those edges again, just to blend a little bit. Take my hand, pat that in. So that's how I can get away with not as much foundation, because I use mostly concealers in the middle and not much at all on the sides. I'll also go in with a bronzer too. This is number 8, by the way, and I go in on those darker areas with the number 8. It's still not looking perfect yet, but I will add some bronzer, and then I'll add this powder. It's a full travel size of the Bobbi Brown Retouching Powder in Peach 4, and then I'll finish up with some Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder, probably Radiant Light. Let's put the before right next to it just so you can see what it looks like side by side, and hopefully that shows you that it didn't take that much time to do it. So it doesn't look like my normal tan skin, but I'm going to bring that back with powder. And it doesn't look like powder because of the Hourglass products. And then that's it. So I'll be right back. So I do apply my concealer like this every day, and when I look in the mirror around halfway through the day, it still looks intact. And that's it. So if you have any tips for me or any products that you would recommend that I should try, I would love to do that. I'm always on the hunt for things that get the result I want and cut down on the time. So if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. So we're going to go in with the We're going to go in with the Renewed Hope in a Jar Skin Tint in we're going to go. Is that what this is? Oh no, I don't know what it is. I find that the Cover FX stick color corrector works really well with the Cover. I find that the Cover FX concealer works really well. Try it again. And then the Radiant, the Hourglass Radiant Bronze Light. And then, so I didn't add it today,